everyone, Steven here from Redolessence. Welcome back to another video. Now here is a brand that I've actually been seeing a lot of posts for recently, and it's called Scent Trunk. Now the perfumer for this particular fragrance is Hans Hendley, and I've had the pleasure of meeting him actually once before many years ago in Manhattan. Here is a fragrance called Everlasting. It is a floral fragrance with some darker personalities to it, a really modern fougere, perfect fit for a gentleman. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on the smell, so make sure to stay tuned. Now before I begin today's video and I tell you all about Everlasting by Scent Trunk, I give you my thoughts on the smell, the performance, any comparisons, any other information that I think is necessary for you to know about this fragrance, I do want to start the video off by mentioning that if you are a fan of fragrance related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell icon and also click where it says enable all notifications. This way, whenever I do put out future content, it will get delivered straight to your feed. You never have to worry about missing any of my uploads, and I upload on a daily basis. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if I gave you the opportunity to learn about a brand new fragrance today, or simply if you enjoyed this video. So here we have a fragrance composed by Hans Hendley, and this fragrance is relatively new, if I'm not mistaken, and I've only learned about it over the past few weeks, to be honest with you. And since I acquired this bottle, I realized that there's a lot of really interesting notes working their magic in this fragrance. So of course it's called Everlasting because it has the everlasting flower in it. So Helichrysum, otherwise known as Immortelle. Now Immortelle is a really special ingredient as I've encountered it in a number of other fragrances. Sometimes it can smell like maple syrup, cracked toast, or like toasted bread, cracked wheat, I meant to say, fenugreek spice. It has some really interesting personalities in there, but adding to that honey-like aroma, there's also honey in this fragrance. So you have honey, you have musk, you have oak moss absolute, you have labdanum, you have bergamot in the opening that opens up really bright and citrusy, and I also got something in the opening that smelled a little like pineapple to me. In any case, I'm excited to give you my thoughts on the smell and also let you know how this fragrance evolved on my skin. Let's start things off with the presentation. So as I said before, right in the opening of this fragrance, I got something very bright, zesty, fruity, and maybe even perhaps a little sweet. Now that I'm understanding the fragrance better, I'm kind of convinced that that sweetness is coming from the resin of labdanum. However, in the opening, it kind of smelled it like pineapple to me. And there's a lot of other fragrances like Fine Apple by Gallagher Fragrances, Mile High by Parle-moi de Parfum. Those fragrances have this really tart, juicy pineapple in the opening, and that's what I thought I was getting from this fragrance. And then I looked at the note breakdown, I saw bergamot, and I'm like, okay, so it has like this juicy, citrusy, tart, fruity introduction, which is really magnetic, but it was short-lived, right? So it lasts about 10 minutes on my skin, and then it quickly evolves into the Immortelle, or the everlasting flower. Now, the beautiful thing about this ingredient is that that one ingredient, that solitary ingredient in and of itself, is very multifaceted. So at times, it smells like maple syrup, it has this spicy aroma to it. It smells like fenugreek, a little bit like anise-y, right? Like star anise. And it also has like this warm personality as well. So it's a floral without smelling flowery, if that makes sense. Whenever we think of flowers, you think of rose and jasmine and gardenia, magnolia, honeysuckle, so on and so forth. That's not really the personality you get in here. The honey that's in here as well, it's warm, it's mellifluent, but it's not powdery. And a lot of fragrances that have an overdose of honey in them, like Back to Black by Kilian Paris, have the tendency of being very powdery. This fragrance is not powdery, at least not on my skin or even on this test strip, right? So I can sense the personality of it, but there's enough of that oak moss in here that gives it this grounding and mature quality. So if I had to create a sort of hierarchy of what I get in this fragrance, it would be the citrus in the opening, or that pineapple accord that I referred to earlier. That's very short-lived. And then mostly I'm getting the Immortelle, followed closely by the oak moss, followed closely by the honey. So I am getting this green underpinning that is coming across rather strongly from like minute 10 and onward. And I personally love it. It's that one ingredient in here that says, hey, look at me, I'm a fougere, right? And I personally love that. I love oak moss, how it kind of has like this old world feel. For a lot of people, they might say it smells vintage. For me, I think oak moss is still very modern. It's all about how you piece it together with other ingredients, right? If you have oak moss with vetiver and fir balsam, okay, then you're gonna, you know, allude to some of the 80s powerhouses, you know, these wonderful fragrances from decades past, which I actually still love to wear from time to time. But that oak moss with that sort of warm amber in the base that is not too sweet or anything like that. Like I said, that sweetness died out when that sort of pineapple-like aroma died out. But this one is wonderfully done. That oak moss lingers, gives it that distinction, that classy quality, while still having that gentle, sweet goodness of the honey and the Immortelle. I think this is a really special blend. Hans Henley did a wonderful job on this fragrance. Very happy that I acquired it and stoked to have it in my collection, and it's so inexpensive. It's inexpensive without being cheap, right? In terms of quality, the quality is great, but this one, I think the 5 ml travel atomizer is like 20 something bucks. 50 ml is, I think, in the vein of like 50 bucks or so. I could be wrong about that, but definitely check it out on the website. I don't remember seeing any extravagant prices. It was very fairly priced, very affordable, and I'm happy that there are brands that are doing that while still having a nice presentation, nicely executed fragrance and concept with a solid perfumer and good quality ingredients. I think that that's very important. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, honestly, that combination of tart, juicy fruitiness and citrus in the opening, paired with that warmth of Immortelle, that dry amber and oak moss, not something that I've smelled before. Love the uniqueness of this fragrance, and it has a nice balance of all of these ingredients that gives it mass appeal. Definitely very quirky, a modern fougere, but very well executed. Longevity was 7 to 8 hours on my skin. The projection was wonderful for the first 45 minutes of application. For that first half hour, that first 20 minutes to half an hour, well beyond an arm's length. Right around that 45-minute mark, it was at an arm's length. It became an elbow's length scent right around hour 4. It became more of a skin scent right around hour 7 or 8. In terms of the versatility, I can see people arguing that this leans a little bit masculine. I would think with the honey and the citrus, it could be, and the Immortelle, it can be perfectly unisex. I think this one is great casually because of the price tag, great formally because of the composition, and I think this is a perfect year-round fragrance. It has enough of that brightness for the hotter weather. It has enough of the resins and the oak moss for the colder weather. And I think in terms of the presentation, I like the cylindrical box. I think it's very simple, but I would imagine it keeps the costs low. Love the cap. Kind of has like a Byredo feel to it, but it's a tiny little bottle. But I really do like the presentation. I think it's very classy, very distinguished, super easy to travel with. My final verdict on this fragrance is I think it's a mass appealing fragrance. It's a modern fougere. It has some really interesting elements in here, and I think it's the note of Immortelle done right. Very good job on this fragrance release. Very happy to have it in my collection. There you have it, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. That was my review of Everlasting by Sentrunk. If you own or have tried this fragrance, let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Also, please don't forget to support the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell and click where it says enable all notifications so that you never miss my daily uploads. Give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new today. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.